Well, hello, everybody. I'm Dennis Prager, and I debate now during this time. I hope you had a good weekend, but of course I hope you had a good weekend. That's the whole point. My friends, there's a deep crisis in the West and in the United States. If the United States should weaken, then it is cruelty will descend upon earth. The United States is the greatest bulwark against cruelty on earth. People will understand some tiny sliver of humanity that I have gotten to, even if it's in the millions. It's still a sliver. We'll say, yeah, that's right. He said people are not basically good. The most important question is, how do you make good people? That's correct. That's what I've been saying all of my life. America succeeded in a remarkable way with all of its flaws. How could it not be flawed? It's made up of humans. Tear it down and what will you get? Chaz? You will get chaos. Chaos produces tyranny, always. Chaos cannot exist. The left's end is chaos. But out of the chaos, already it's happening in Chaz. Some guys with weapons walk around with their bodyguards and pretty much run the place. It's always, there is no exception to the fact that chaos produces tyranny. That we have succeeded in not doing that is a remarkable affirmation of the middle class values that this country has believed in, even if not always lived by. The most important story of the last 10 years, and I don't even think the man who knows me better than almost anyone on earth will guess what I will say. The most important, in this sense, so I'll give a hint. What story that I reported here, and not only I reported, it was nationally reported, well, it was not in the mainstream media, but you all heard about it, I believe, or nearly all of you. What do you think I will choose as the most revealing of what animates the left of all the stories I have reported in the last decade? May I have a TikTok, Mr. Engineer, while people think? I will provide it. TikTok. All right. All right. Well, all right. Thank you. And the answer, you have any idea? Okay. The woman at the University of Pennsylvania. What was her name again? Amy Wax. Amy Wax, huh? You wouldn't have guessed it. But now that you hear it, makes sense? Right. So Amy Wax she was on the show. She is a professor of law at the University of Pennsylvania Law School. She wrote a piece for the Philadelphia Inquirer. The University of Pennsylvania is in Philadelphia. Co-authored by another professor of law in California. The thesis of it was, middle-class values are the best. Bourgeois middle-class values. Basically, as you all know, you graduate high school, you get a job, you marry before you have a baby. Was there a fourth thing? I don't think so. That was it. And she didn't even mention go to church. I would. Because this is all of this chaos is a product of the death of religion in the West. All of it. People have no anchor. They have no more than an anchor, but I'll leave that for the moment. Amy Wax writes this article, and you would think, okay, professor of law writes an article, the middle-class values in America are are a wonderful set of values, and they will be good for anybody. So 250 of her fellow law professors signed a petition that she not any longer teach her freshman class, lest she influence young minds entering law school. They would, of course, love her to leave, but she has tenure. And what did they call her piece? All right. I'll give you 3 guesses. Transcendental, illuminating, or racist. Yeah, it was racist. Now, I want you to understand something. If that does not make you clear that the left are the racists, then truly nothing will. If you say that a set of values that is universally good is only good for whites, then isn't that a racist statement? Work hard, get married before a child, and graduate high school is only good for whites? Do you understand how damaging that message is to blacks? It was the most important story of the last 10 years because it shows this is a values battle. It is to tear down the West. Now, why? That's very complex. Why would people want to tear down the land that has given more people more opportunity, more liberty, and more affluence than any other in the history of the world? Why would they want to do that? That's very complex. That is what I have devoted my life to trying to figure out. One reason is, and the giveaway is, wanting feverishly, affirming the right of biological men to compete against biological women in sports. That's the second giveaway, because that is chaos. Right? Everyone, it is not possible to have a similar set of values and think it is fair. I have a male body, I consider myself female, so I can compete against females and constantly win. It is not possible to have a similar set of values to someone who says, "Are you kidding?" Of course that's not fair. All right? So what is it, what is the person aiming for who wants males, biological males? I have no argument with what you consider yourself. I have an argument with elementary fairness. That's chaos. When men identifying as women are running in races against girls, this is usually high school in Connecticut, that's chaos. So chaos is somehow or other, the left hates order. That's why law and order is an obscene term. It's not even the law part, it's the order. They loathe, the next thing they loathe that makes them tick is authority. Although they're totalitarians, they want to be the authority. So God is removed, parents are removed, teachers are removed from authority, I'm talking about. And police now are removed. Get it? There is no higher authority than myself and those who are with me. Western civilization is built on the authority of parents, the authority of God, the authority of the church, the authority of the police, the authority of teachers. They loathe all of that. It's all a values issue. It's called a race issue, but it's actually a values issue because blacks who agree with these values agree with me. That's the proof, isn't it? 1-8 776 trying to clarify the confusing.
This is Owen Strand for townhall.com. A call is going out now for the dismantling of the Minneapolis Police Department. The president of the city council said this when asked about what to do in the case of a break-in.
Yes, I mean, I hear that loud and clear from a lot of my neighbors. And I know, and myself too, and I know that that comes from a place of privilege because for those of us for whom the system is working, I think we need to step back and imagine what it would feel like to already live in that reality where calling the police may mean more harm is done.
There's no doubt that our cities and communities need restoration, including greater peaceful engagement between police and citizens. Yet the idea that wanting protection is privilege is not sound. In fact, it's absurd and won't restore anything. Police who act unjustly are accountable to the rule of law and must be. But there is no need to qualify what a society without police will look like. More harm will surely be done. May coming days bring greater safety and meaningful restoration. I'm Owen Strand.
ADF, fighting for those whose religious freedom is being violated. Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
Mayor Jenny Durkan appeared with Chris Cuomo on CNN and characterized this takeover of a neighborhood in Seattle where you just heard the police chief characterize people pelting police officers with projectiles, screaming at them, attacking, and ultimately taking it over. But the mayor says these patriots are sort of just having a giant, fun-filled block party.
So I don't have to tell you about the situation on the ground in your city, but in terms of how it looks to the rest of the country and the president teeing it up as basically ineptitude, the inability to control your own streets, is that fair criticism?
So I know it will shock you that the president is perhaps not giving an accurate or truthful picture. We've got 4 blocks in Seattle that you just saw pictures of that is more like a block party atmosphere. It's not an armed takeover. It's not a military junta. We will make sure that we can restore this, but we have block parties and the like in this part of Seattle all the time. It's known for that. So I think the president, number one, there is no threat right now to the public, and we're taking that very seriously. We're meeting with businesses and residents. But what the president threatened is illegal and unconstitutional. And the fact that he can think he can just tweet that and not have ramifications is just wrong.
I don't even know where to begin.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Joined by an old friend, Ralph Reed is the chairman and CEO of Century Strategies. He's been working as an advisor to presidents for as long as I've been behind this microphone. He's an old friend, but he has a new book, For God and Country, The Christian Case for Trump. Welcome back. Good to talk to you, friend.
Thanks so much, Hugh. A big fan, regular listener of the show. Great to be with you.
I got to say, Appendix 1. When I'm done with God and Country, I'm just going to tear out Appendix 1 because it's my show every day between now and November. Would you explain to people what you did for everybody?
What we did, Hugh, was we put together a roughly 30-page appendix of all of the incredible accomplishments and achievements of President Trump in just the first 3 years of his first term. And
and I welcome you to the show. There's a piece in, where was this? The Google's go-to conservative influencer list. You sent it to me. The National Pulse, that's it. The National Pulse is today publishing a previously undisclosed go-to list of conservative, quote-unquote, influencers that big tech firm Google uses to influence the political dynamics of Washington, D.C. And it lists names of people who are ostensibly conservative, who defend big tech's ability to censor. Remember, I used to say there are two parties, the destructive and the stupid, and I'm a member of the stupid. Well, in the last few years, it's become less stupid and it's become more of a fighter. But the number of conservatives who don't perceive the battle for this society is quite remarkable. I'm not even talking about never-Trumpers, whose preoccupation with Donald Trump as the left literally burns down parts of the society and destroys our history. That George Washington is controversial is quite upsetting. Ask your child, if you have a kid in high school or college, name an American hero. So I suspect they'll say Martin Luther King. So say, okay, can you name an American hero who is white? And I'll bet they can't. So there's one hero left. And that will be challenged, as I told you, because of what will come out, the tape recordings that will come out in a few years. And this was made public by one of the biographers of the civil rights movement. I won't go into it in detail now because it will be so distracting. But we will have a society for the first time in history anywhere with no heroes. Part of the chaos that they are creating. Taking down statues of Ulysses Grant. Do they even know what Ulysses Grant stood for? The man destroyed the KKK in his lifetime. He was a remarkably good human being, Ulysses Grant. He had a slave, I think, for 2 years or something. I mean, it was bequeathed to him or given, and then he released him. I know his wife was, but that's another issue. I think you take a look. Yeah, I was reading up on it. Because to be a young person in America today is to be living in a different country than I grew up in, and I've said that for years. Ask your kid. I should write a list of questions to ask your college or high school aged kid. Are you in any way emotionally moved if you see the national anthem and hear the national anthem played and see the flag wave? If there is no emotional reaction to that, it presents an existential threat to the survival of the country. However, I want to make something clear to you. This is the time you fight. You fight by keeping calm, posting things that are relevant. You will be defriended. That's correct. So there will be two worlds in the United States. That is correct. So what do? You keep quiet? So only one side ends up speaking, as you realize. I feel for you. Look, I'm attacked like crazy. It's not like I don't practice what I preach. There are entire websites that just attack me and curse me. So therefore what? If guys died in the hundreds of thousands to keep this country free from the Civil War through the 21st century, I could take a risk on being defriended. In my case, not defriended, just publicly attacked. I'm speaking in your case. And it's a model to your children to fight. Now, I'm not saying every one of you can. The woman who called me and said at her place of work, they are taking a knee, and she knows that if she doesn't, she will be fired. At the very least, totally ostracized. To be the company racist. Take a knee. The ease with which people make themselves feel good about themselves is one of the phenomena of life. I took a knee. Aren't I wonderful? The new, not new, but the dominant theme now is it is not enough not to be racist. You have to be anti-racist. And anti-racist means leftist. Okay, you can't be an anti-racist conservative. Get it? I'm anti-racist. I think racism is one of the most awful things in human history. But that what doesn't count. My anti-racism comes from my conservative, Judeo-Christian, American values. All men are created equal. In my Declaration of Independence, God created Adam with no color in his image. God has no race. So those are my sources. And e pluribus unum, from many one. Oh, I got to get the Thomas Friedman column up. From many we. I told you they're making war on the American Trinity. Everything I told you is coming true. Of course, it affords me zero joy, but at least it proves that I have had a clear take on what is happening in the United States of America. In the meantime, things are not all that wonderful around the world. China is making very aggressive noises about Taiwan. If they invaded Taiwan, would Donald Trump come to their aid? I believe so. Would Joe Biden come to their aid? Be an interesting question to pose to him, wouldn't it? Who do you think China wants as president of the United States? Joe Biden or Donald Trump? 1-8-Prager-776, 877-243, 7776. Yep. When I come back, I'm going to share with you the predictions made about ICU beds and other things, none of which panned out.
Attention business owners. As America gets back to work, will customers know you're there? With little warning, the coronavirus attacked our nation and our well-being in ways we never anticipated. The tragic loss of life, unprecedented economic upheaval, and a shattered sense of security has left many individuals and businesses in shambles. While the aftershocks could be felt for months to come, they may not have to. There is hope for an extraordinary turnaround of your bottom line. But will you be prepared for America's grand reopening? All signs point to the biggest business opportunity of our lifetime, coming as early as this summer. A recent survey of local advertisers shows a 10-point jump in the number of local advertisers who plan to maintain or increase their spending. 1 in 4 businesses expect to spend more in advertising by the end of June, and more than half expect to restart or surge their spending by this summer. As the numbers forecast increased spending from advertisers across the country, will your message be seen and heard? Will your business benefit from the pent-up consumer demand? Salem Surround is prepared to help you deliver the right advertising message to reach all potential customers wherever they are. Your business can be ready for a post-COVID-19 economy, but the time to act is now. Be at the front of the line as our economy begins to fire on all cylinders once again. For a free assessment of your marketing message and strategy, visit salemsurround.com or contact your local media strategist today.
This is Lanhee Chen of the Hoover Institution for Townhall.com. Public health officials across America have spent the last several months warning about the dangers of the coronavirus and the need for us to stay at home, halt economic activity, and avoid social interactions with our friends and neighbors. We are now reopening our economy in many parts of the country, but these same public health officials have compromised their own credibility as we do so. On the one hand, they've urged caution and a slow return to work, school, and faith gatherings. They've criticized those who oppose the stay-at-home orders. But at the same time, these officials have been broadly supportive of the large protests on America's streets in the last few weeks. Public health officials should be helping us understand the comparative risks of activities, not endorsing the causes they like while prohibiting the ones they don't. Their hypocrisy is costly indeed. They have impacted our ability to address future health crises. I'm Lanhee Chen.
ADF, fighting for those whose liberties are being violated. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. Thank you for joining me this morning. The president and the vice president greeted a group of seniors to the White House yesterday to talk about senior policy. The media was invited in. A, quote, spray occurred. I'd like you to hear some of that. You may have seen some of it, not seen much of it on the news last night. Donald Trump talking with John Roberts of Fox News addressed the Chaz zone in Seattle, cut number 6.
You know, they're negotiating garbage removal. These people have taken over a vast part, a major part, a very good part of a place called Seattle. Seattle's big stuff. That's a major city. And we have a governor who's a stiff, and we have a mayor who said, oh, this is going to be a love fest. The problem with what happened in Seattle is it spreads. And all of a sudden they'll say, let's do some other city, and let's do another one. And we're not going to let it happen. So timing-wise, hey, we're all set to go. We're watching the process. But the most amazing thing about the process is how the fake news media doesn't want to cover it.
And he's right.
That's the most amazing thing.
And the fake news media doesn't want to cover it because it does make Democrats look.
Hello, everybody. Dennis Prager here. David in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Hello. David in Spartanburg. Hello. Hi.
How you doing, Dennis?
Okay, thank you for calling.
Yes, I was listening to you talk, and you said that you couldn't understand why the people were tearing up the country. And this is my answer to the question. First of all, the country, the foundation of this country was started off wrong. See, when you got a bad foundation, that house is going to start cracking, and you're going to see cracks in the wall. And you can't understand why the house looks like it's shifting a little bit. Well, that's what's happening today. The foundation is shifting the house. The walls is cracking. And the founding fathers of this nation started off wrong. They didn't build it right. George Washington, your hero, he owned slaves. And if you got the heart of being a man of integrity, a man that people want to pattern themselves after, if you want the children to pattern themselves after a man like George Washington, even though he was the president, he's a good man. He did good things, but you can do good things and be a good man and you can be a bad person in a lot of things that you do. So if George Washington your hero, then you need to check the list. Can you hear me, Dennis?
I hear every word. I'm just letting you speak.
Check the list. Is Columbus your hero? Check the list. Columbus genocide over 12 to 15 million people. If you want your children to, or your grandchildren to look at Columbus as a hero, a great man, then if that's what you want, then look at it like that. But people like that are not my heroes. People like that I would want to pattern myself after.
Mm-hmm. No, who wants to pattern themselves after George Washington's owning slaves? Are you familiar with any American who wants to own slaves?
I'm listening to you.
No, I asked you a question.
You said George Washington, your hero.
I know. I'll ask it one more time. Do you know any American who would like to own slaves because George Washington is their hero?
Do I know any American would like to own slaves because George Washington was your hero?
Was their hero, yeah.
Was their hero?
Yeah.
I don't know. You got
don't
different
know.
people with different
So
thoughts.
wait. You think that there are Americans who hold George Washington as their hero and would like to copy his owning slaves?
You got to understand, you got different thoughts of different people in America. You got some Americans with just they would not even think of having George Washington. They would not even think of trying to say George Washington was a hero. But you got some people that look at George Washington as a hero.
Let me ask you a question, David. All right, let me ask you another question. Is there a country that you would rather live in?
Right here in America.
You would like to live in America?
United States of America is the country. But the country
So George Washington founded the country that you would most want to live in of all 200 countries.
That's right. George Washington was one of the founders.
Right, of the country that you most want to live in as a black man.
George Washington is one of the founders, but he built it wrong. See, we find out the walls are cracked, and we got to go and find out what the problem is.
Right. All right. Listen, my friend, I'm very happy you called. And I know what you would like me to think about, and I will. I'd like you to think about the fact that of all the countries in the world, as a black man, you rather live in the United States. George Washington is the man who founded the country that you would most want to live in. Why is that not something huge in his favor? The country that had slavery at its origin, which is almost every country in the world, incidentally, including Black Africa, including Arab countries, including other countries in the Western Hemisphere, 300,000 something slaves came to the U.S. And how many went to Brazil? 5 million? Relief Factor has a deal for you, the 3-week quick start. Here's the story. As Brian in Alabama wrote to them, after taking Relief Factor for 3 weeks, at least 90% of my pain is gone. My pain had begun to limit me in my ability to get things done at work and at home. I am amazed at the relief I have gotten. That is why they are such a successful sponsor. 800-500-8384, relieffactor.com. The 3-week quick start is $19.95.
If anybody doubted how strong America is, look at all we've been through in the past few months and understand why we're still standing. We're still standing because we believe in the bonds that bring us together. We believe in freedom and liberty. And we believe that after all we've been through, nothing can defeat us. So let's cheer as America gets ready to rebuild and remake our lives bigger, stronger, better than ever before. Keep it here to find out how we are the answer. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
You write in your book, Amity Shlaes, quote, most Americans shared something else with Harrington, confidence. In the 1930s, the New Deal had failed to reduce unemployment. The prolonged periods of joblessness were what had made the Depression great. But the memory of the New Deal failure had faded just enough that younger people liked the sound of the term. And memories of more recent successes fueled Americans' current ambitions. Many men were veterans, end of quote. This confidence that we could reorient society, we could cure poverty, as you pointed out. This is what drove a lot of this stuff.
Oh, yes. Well, it's always, I was looking at a flip chart, a flip picture today, on the internet where they said, well, racism is a result of capitalism. We need socialism to get rid of racism. And I thought, wow, that's pretty intense, but a lot, and pretty wrong-headed, but a lot of young people believe that. The epigram of the current book, Great Society, which I hope your listeners will pick up, is a lot of facts you may have thought about before but never seen laid out, is nothing new, it's just forgotten. And now, here we are, people are just wealthy enough, unemployment has been low just long enough that we forgot what it was like to have higher unemployment or to see companies fail or to understand that the government can't afford everything.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Hey there, folks. Welcome. I'm talking to my friend Dinesh D'Souza. He has a new book out today. It's called United States of Socialism. If previous presidents had done the right thing, the monster that is now China would not be as big as it is, and we would not have to deal with it in this way. But it seems to me that the naivete and the greed of Clinton and the Bushes with regard to China, thinking that the god of the free market is going to solve the political problems in China and make them just like us. That's one kind of stupidity. The other is just the pure greed of saying that, knowing.
See visual highlights of my show every day on my YouTube channel. So sign up today, go to youtube.com, type in Dennis Prager channel, and click subscribe. Don't forget to click the bell icon so you'll be notified every time we put up a new clip. I'd like to tell you about Larry Elder's movie, Uncle Tom. It is now out. Today is the official release date, or was it on Friday? Anyway, it is now out. And it's unbelievably importantly timed. And people, the left would not like you to see this. It's called Uncle Tom. Go to UncleTom.com, enter the discount code Prager, receive 20% off the price of the on-demand rental or the cost of the DVDs. It's the story of America's black conservatives in their own voice. UncleTom.com and enter the code Prager for 20% off. Larry also has the video out for PragerU this week on the truth about Ferguson. Remember I told you all of my life, the left is built on a house of lies. The truth is not a left-wing value. When people go, oh, hands up, don't shoot, it was never said. Do you know that? It was never said. It's all made up. The whole thing, the notion that the police kill more unarmed blacks than whites, is also untrue. The number is infinitesimally small to begin with. It's all a gigantic lie. America is a racist country is a gigantic lie. But if people believe lies, there's very little you can do. But there is something we have to do, and that's fight back. So his movie and this video at PragerU are two examples. Larry, Candace Owens, and others are just, they're courageous. That's what they are. They're not alone in the black world, but they are happier people. See, they subscribe to middle-class values. That's all it is. It's as simple as that. They subscribe to the fundamental values. Hey, by the way, those of you who laughed at me that if the 10 Commandments is all we need to have a decent society, the inability of the left to condemn all the stealing called looting that took place in the riots, doesn't that show that the 10 Commandments might in fact be necessary? People who believe that God said, "Thou shalt not steal," are less likely to loot. Would you agree with me? Or is that a leap of faith? The arrogance of people who think, oh, we'll make a beautiful society without God and without religion. Oh, sure, we can do it. Just answer to our conscience. Well, the people who smashed all of those stores, who've ruined whole neighborhoods, they answer to their conscience. Just for the record, they think they're wonderful. And so do many on the left. That's the way it is. Tony in Chicago, Dennis Prager, hello.
And it's a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dennis, I was telling your screener, right, I have a son, and you brought it up a couple minutes ago about American heroes, and he's a big American guy like myself. My father was in the Army. We just watched the Grant 3-part series over Memorial Day weekend where Grant took down the KKK in Reconstruction South. My fear and my worry, Dennis, is as he gets ready to go back to school in the fall, again, he wears a lot of American flag stuff. He's very patriotic. I really worry about him being ostracized.
He will be. He will be.
Yeah, or looked upon as different. We have a big American flag decal in our car. He's almost 16. He's going to start driving.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it scares me, Dennis, to think that we've come to this point.
That's correct.
In the country.
Yes, if you love America, you're a racist. I will be addressing this issue, this show, about how it is now official policy of the public schools of America to teach a Black Matters curriculum, Black Lives Matter curriculum, and everything around it. I now believe that we have to withdraw from the institutions of society, like the public school. We just have to withdraw. There are plenty of us. It would be an earthquake. People will just have to homeschool their children or send their children to schools that affirm in God we trust, e pluribus unum, and liberty. I have no good answer for your son. Now, if he is a true fighter, doesn't care about being ostracized, could even organize others who feel like him, more power to him. But I would not send my own child to most public or private schools today.
Thank you, Dennis.
Yes, thank you. See, this is where you can't influence the major media, right? There's nothing you can do, but you can, in fact, we have numbers, my friends. Virtually half this country does love this country. And I don't only mean emotionally, I mean love its values and understand what is at stake. excellence. That's what's at stake, among other things. You have to rise to certain values. We do not care about your race, gender, or class when it comes to excellence. They choose members of great orchestras behind a curtain. They don't know how the person looks or anything else, just how they play their instrument.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
It may not have been the appropriate response to shoot the man who was running away with the taser, and it makes sense to me. I want to make clear, though, to all listening, as much as a mistake as that might have been, and I have to emphasize might have, because that'll be adjudicated, leaping to the notion that it was done because the man was black is a non sequitur to me. I just don't understand how people get to that conclusion.
I agree. That's an absurdity. There's no way that officer woke up that morning and said, I'm going to go and kill a black person today. That's just a ridiculous thing to say. In fact, where I work is in underserved neighborhoods of color, and the vast majority of cops there, the majority of cops there are white, and we choose to work there because we want to help the community. We don't want to go there and hurt people in the community. We're there to help protect and serve that community. And I firmly believe that the vast majority of police officers, vast majority, wake up every morning wanting to do good and wanting to help. And those circumstances happen to be, they shot a person who was black. They didn't shoot a person because he was black. Right. That's a ridiculous statement and ridiculous sentiment. And the people that perpetrate that, I think, are as guilty as anyone in this whole mess.
Yes, that's the reason I raised it. And every study that I have seen has confirmed that, including the National Academy of Sciences, speaking about the lack of racist bigotry in the police force. Last year, this report came out, ladies and gentlemen. National Academy of Sciences. That is the highest body of science in the United States of America.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
Attention business owners. As America gets back to work, will customers know you're there? With little warning, the coronavirus attacked our nation and our well-being in ways we never anticipated. The tragic loss of life, unprecedented economic upheaval, and a shattered sense of security has left many individuals and businesses in shambles. While the aftershocks could be felt for months to come, they may not have to. There is hope for an extraordinary turnaround of your bottom line. But will you be prepared for America's grand reopening? All signs point to the biggest business opportunity of our lifetime, coming as early as this summer. A recent survey of local advertisers shows a 10-point jump in the number of local advertisers who plan to maintain or increase their spending. 1 in 4 businesses expect to spend more in advertising by the end of June, and more than half expect to restart or surge.
Hi, everybody. The question that I think, if you could ask one question to black or white leftists, if you only have a chance to ask one, and there are a lot of contenders for that title, but I would ask this: Is white racism the greatest problem in American black life? Or is the 80% out of wedlock birth rate, not being born with a man married to your mother, which is the bigger problem in black life? Now, to even ask that question now would probably get you untwittered. just to ask the question. The suppression of free speech is unprecedented in American history. Do you realize the time we are living through? And it is being done but not by the government. Not at all. It is being done in the private sphere by the tech companies that run everything. Twitter, YouTube, Google, Facebook. This is unprecedented in history, let alone American history. There was really one thing that liberals, or even, well, there weren't that many leftists, liberals and conservatives always agreed on free speech, which is why you should see No Safe Spaces. Two really important movies out now, Uncle Tom and No Safe Spaces. You owe it to the country and to yourself to see both. And you want to know the truth about Ferguson? Send this video. I'm very curious how your woke son or daughter would react. Ask them to see. It's 5 minutes. A scholarly restatement of what the evidence proved under the Barack Obama Department of Justice about what actually happened in Ferguson, Missouri. Everything they believe is built on a lie, and that is why it is worrisome. Lies are the root of evil. That's why this election is obviously so important. The issue has nothing to do with what you think of Donald Trump. It's a narcissistic question. The issue isn't even what do you think of Joe Biden. There is nothing to think about Joe Biden. He stands for nothing. So it's irrelevant. Why I never focused on Hillary Clinton. I focused on the left. You elect the left, you crush the country. If that is not obvious now, it will never be obvious. Look at the streets. Look at the freedom. Look at the cancel culture. I'll return. I'm Dennis Prager.
This is Lanhee Chen of the Hoover Institution for Townhall.com. Public health officials across America have spent the last several months warning about the dangers of the coronavirus and the need for us to stay at home, halt economic activity, and avoid social interactions with our friends and neighbors. We are now reopening our economy in many parts of the country, but these same public health officials have compromised their own credibility as we do so. On the one hand, they've urged caution and a slow return to work, school, and faith gatherings. They've criticized those who oppose the stay-at-home orders. But at the same time, these officials have been broadly supportive of the large protests on America's streets in the last few weeks. Public health officials should be helping us understand the comparative risks of activities, not endorsing the causes they like while prohibiting the ones they don't. Their hypocrisy is costly indeed. They have impacted our ability to address future health crises. I'm Lanhee Chen.
ADF, fighting for those whose liberties are being violated. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
We used to be able to testify in court, and we were believed. Now, unless there is a video from 3 different angles, no one cares what you have to say. With all this talk about racism and racist cops, I've never seen people treated differently because of their race. And while I know that cowards that have never done this job will call me a racist for saying it, all I've ever seen was criminal behavior and cops trying to stop it, and they didn't give a rip what their skin color was. I've seen cops help and save any type of race, gender, or ethnicity you can think of, and while that used to mean something, no one cares anymore. I've been called every name you can think of, and many of them with racial overtones, and it's never come from cops. I've watched African American cops take the brunt of this and even talked one rookie out of quitting after he was berated by a lot of cowards that had the same skin color as him. I've heard words I never heard before coming a cop. Uncle Tom, cracker, pig, and the N-word, just to name a few. I've heard them thousands of times, and never once did I see an officer retaliate. They just took it. The nasty words have now turned into rocks and bottles and gunfire. I've watched it happen to those around me, and I've seen the total destruction of their life. This job is a walking time bomb, and you can get cancelled or prosecuted on the very next call, even if you do everything right. No profession has to deal with that.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
I am reading from the Financial Times headline, Pompeo castigates Bolton as a traitor. Mike Pompeo, the U.S. Secretary of State, has hit out at John Bolton, calling his former colleague a traitor and accusing Donald Trump's ex-national security advisor of lies in his new memoir. John Bolton is spreading a number of lies, fully spun half-truths, and outright falsehoods, Mr. Pompeo said about the room where it happened. Mr. Bolton's new book that is scheduled for release next Tuesday. In a statement headlined, I was in the room too, Mr. Pompeo said it was both sad and dangerous that John Bolton's final public role is that of a traitor who damaged America by violating his sacred trust with its people. Strong words. I just don't like memoirs, which are tell-alls. Now, I read memoirs. I'm reading Bob Gates' new book, which will have anecdotes in it. I'm sure he submitted it for the review of the appropriate authorities to make sure that we do not give away any methods or source. It results in death. That's why the Pentagon Papers was not a moment of virtue for this country. It was a moment of assassination by Daniel Ellsberg and those who chaired it. It resulted in the deaths of people who could be traced in their cooperation with the United States government by the North Vietnamese after they triumphed after the United States cut and ran from Vietnam in 1975, excuse me. So no, I just don't believe in it. You got to put your books in for review. There have been memoirs by Secretary of Defense Rumsfeld, by Vice President Cheney, by George W. Bush, by Condoleezza Rice. They all get submitted to the same process. And guess what? It's not quick. And Ambassador Bolton ought to have followed the rules.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
You write in your book, Amity Shlaes, quote, most Americans shared something else with Harrington, confidence. In the 1930s, the New Deal had failed to reduce unemployment. The prolonged periods of joblessness were what had made the Depression great. But the memory of the New Deal failure had faded just enough that younger people liked the sound of the term. And memories of more recent successes fueled Americans' current ambitions. Many men were veterans, end of quote. This confidence that we could reorient society, we could cure poverty, as you pointed out. This is what drove a lot of this stuff.
Oh, yes. Well, it's always, I was looking at a flip chart, a flip picture today, on the internet where they said, well, racism is a result of capitalism. We need socialism to get rid of racism. And I thought, wow, that's pretty intense, but a lot, and pretty wrong-headed, but a lot of young people believe that. The epigram of the current book, Great Society, which I hope your listeners will pick up, there's a lot of facts you may have thought about before but never seen laid out, is nothing new, it's just forgotten. And now, here we are, people are just wealthy enough, unemployment has been low just long enough that we forgot what it was like to have higher unemployment or to see companies fail or to understand that the government can't afford everything.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
Attention business owners. As America gets back to work, will customers know you're there? With little warning, the coronavirus attacked our nation and our well-being in ways we never anticipated. The tragic loss of life, unprecedented economic upheaval, and a shattered sense of security has left many individuals and businesses in shambles. While the aftershocks could be felt for months to come, they may not have to. There is hope for an extraordinary turnaround of your bottom line. But
This is Lanhee Chen of the Hoover Institution for townhall.com. Public health officials across America have spent the last several months warning about the dangers of the coronavirus and the need for us to stay at home, halt economic activity, and avoid social interactions with our friends and neighbors. We are now reopening our economy in many parts of the country, but these same public health officials have compromised their own credibility as we do so. On the one hand, they've urged caution and a slow return to work, school, and faith gatherings. They've criticized those who oppose the stay-at-home orders. But at the same time, these officials have been broadly supportive of the large protests on America's streets in the last few weeks. Public health officials should be helping us understand the comparative risks of activities, not endorsing the causes they like while prohibiting the ones they don't. Their hypocrisy is costly indeed. They have impacted our ability to address future health crises. I'm Lanhee Chen.
ADF, fighting for those whose liberties are being violated. Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
I think the New York media is describing Florida as coronavirus raging through the state. That's literally the word they're using, at least in the New York Post. But there's a peculiarity about these data-driven news reports. Always at the bottom of the article, at the end of the report, they admit that deaths and hospitalizations are down, and hospital capacity is nowhere near being stretched thin. I don't understand it any more than I can make sense of a guy like Anthony Fauci, who told us that masks don't work and they're not effective and you shouldn't go around wearing a mask. You're causing more problems than solutions. And then admitting that those were lies because they were worried that we would, scarf up all the face masks from the hospital workers. And now, if you live in California, soon to be Texas, Tampa, Florida, you don't wear a mask, I guess you're breaking the law. I don't know what they're going to do to you if you don't have a mask. Think there'll be a mask jail? Will there be a prison for people who refuse to wear a mask? I'm serious. They're going to lock people up? You're just going to give you a fine? You're going to pay a fine if you refuse to wear a mask? I saw a conservative activist got kicked off a flight. He was trying to get to Tulsa on an airplane. They kicked him off the plane. I believe it was American Airlines.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
We used to be able to testify in court, and we were believed. Now, unless there is a video from 3 different angles, no one cares what you have to say. With all this talk about racism and racist cops, I've never seen people treated differently because of their race. And while I know that cowards that have never done this job will call me a racist for saying it, all I've ever seen was criminal behavior and cops trying to stop it, and they didn't give a rip what their skin color was. I've seen cops help and save any type of race, gender, or ethnicity you can think of, and while that used to mean something, no one cares anymore. I've been called every name you can think of, and many of them with racial overtones, and it's never come from cops. I've watched African American cops take the brunt of this and even talked one rookie out of quitting after he was berated by a lot of cowards that had the same skin color as him. I've heard words I never heard before coming a cop. Uncle Tom, cracker, pig, and the N-word, just to name a few.
Powerful piece, and that's why among the many reasons I've invited him on. It's up at DennisPrager.com, by the way. He's also author. His newest book is The United States of Trump, How the President Really Sees America. Talking about Trump, Bill, I always hesitate asking people to make predictions because I never make predictions. So, nevertheless, I'll put you on the spot. Not so much who do you think will win, but is it a toss-up in your eyes? Is it fair? Are the polls accurate that Biden is quite ahead? What is your read?
If the election were held tomorrow, Biden would win. The polls are not accurate. They're push polls, which means that the polling companies want a certain outcome because they're paid by corporations that want that outcome. And so they do little things like poll more Democrats than Republicans, and then they say, well, there's more registered Democrats than Republicans in the country. Well, that's true, but that doesn't mean there's going to be a turnout that has an 8-point spread like you do. And then they have the independents. What independents? They never say. So if you're going to call San Francisco and somebody's going to be an independent, which the polling companies quite often do, you're going to get a liberal take on your poll, and that's called push polling. Anyway, Biden would win tomorrow, but he's a weak candidate, and Trump can exploit him in the debates. If COVID diminishes, and it's a stubborn disease, that will ignite the economy, which is really what Donald Trump is all about. So all the other stuff is secondary to COVID diminishing and the economy surging again, because the radical Black Lives Matter movement situation works against Biden. As I said, most people don't want this radical left approach, and you saw Trump exploit that in Tulsa on Saturday. So if things go well for the country, Trump wins. If they continue to be chaotic, he probably loses.
Right. Chaos is their friend.
Yes.
That's exactly my read. I just want to add that while I fundamentally agree with what you said, in my mind, the economy is only one factor. When I think of the judges issue, that alone would necessitate a Republican president, Trump.
But it's not a populist issue.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. That's why I said in my mind. In my mind,
yeah.
Giving Iran back its ability to develop nuclear weapons.
If I wrote a column a couple of weeks ago on Biden, and I know him pretty well, and I said, look, he's not a radical left bomb thrower himself, but he will never stand up.
Exactly. It's irrelevant.
Ever. And he won't run the country.
Right.
If he's elected, Joe Biden's not going to be running the country.
That's right.
It's going to be Obama acolytes.
Yep.
And some of them are very activist and very, very committed to the socialism that many in the Democratic Party have embraced.
Would you, if you had kids now, would you send them to school or homeschool them?
No, I got kids and they're in school. So I got a kid in Fordham, and the guy there, Jesuit school.
I'm talking about elementary school, sorry.
Okay. But I was going to say the guy at Fordham doing a pretty good job at controlling the madness.
Yeah, I believe that. But
and I send my kids to private school. I wouldn't send them to public school.
Right, but even
private school, generally speaking, still embraces tradition and an education that's well-rounded and disciplined, where the public schools don't. And that's the whole key to this race stuff, because you can't get, sorry about that, that's Holly the terror dog, you can't get ahead in this country unless you're educated. And the public school education is, in the inner cities, dismal. In the poor precincts, it's awful. And that's why minorities don't compete in some places.
So that's what they claim is systemic racism. What's your answer?
Discipline in public schools. Now, that may not wipe out skin color racism, but I'd put skin color racism, Dennis, maybe 5%. I mean, I don't know anybody. Do you know anybody who doesn't like people because of the color of their skin?
You know, it is amazing.
You know one person?
I have said that, and I have never actually met a racist.
I know thousands of people.
No.
Thousands.
Here's one for you that drives Jewish liberals crazy. You know I'm Jewish, and I have never been subjected to anti-Semitism in all of my years in America. I have abroad, but never in America. And it's a good country, and we're tearing apart a good country.
Listen, the generalization that this is a country based on white supremacy is insane. It's insane. It's all about money. It's not about skin color. It's about money. The ruling class has money. And if you are an African American and you're lucky enough to be born into a wealthy home, you'll do well. And if you work hard, you will go rocket through the ranks of this country.
That's exactly right. Well, I want to go back to one thing and get your thought. So if there's chaos, that's good for the Democrats. So here's an interesting question. Why would most Americans vote for chaos?
Because they don't understand what's happening. And I don't want to be supercilious here, but they just don't understand. People vote emotion. They vote emotion. And if you're poor and you're not doing well, you're going to vote for the person who's not in office. And if you see violence in the streets, then you're going to vote for somebody who's going to stop the violence, which is why I say all these protests don't help Joe Biden and the Democratic Party. They know it, too. They know it. But they're just too cowardly to stop it.
Well, what they say is...
So people vote emotion. They don't see the bigger picture in many cases because they're looking at it through their point of view.
So there are two ways of looking at the chaos for the emotional voter, which is many Americans. One is, my God, look at what the left is fomenting. I have to vote Republican. The other is, oh my God, if Trump is out of office, no more of these riots.
And I think that'll be close. I think it'll be 60-40 Trump's way because most Americans are going to blame the radical left for all of this. But there will be a large segment, and you know who they are in Los Angeles and the big cities, who are going to say, listen, Trump's a racist and all this stuff's his fault.
Yep.
And that'll catch on in some precincts because it'll be pushed by the media.
That's right. All right. People should go to BillO'Reilly.com. You write the really powerful columns. It's always good to be with you, Bill.
Thanks for having me on, Dennis. Really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Okay, go to your calls and more of what is happening on the Dennis Prager Show.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
I keep asking you the same question every week because I still don't get it. The greatest nation on God's earth, until the coronavirus, the Wu flu, the biggest economy the world had ever seen, the markets returned to where they were pre-COVID, and then there's these weird skittish moments where there's a flutter on the market and there's a sudden drop because 4 Apple stores are closing. Trish, what's going on?
Well, yeah, Seb, people are nervous right now. There's still a lot of volatility out there because they're trying to figure out, is this for real, right? Like they want to make sure that this economic recovery is indeed for real. And when you hear about Apple stores shutting down, when you hear about states getting very nervous about reopening, they're saying to themselves, wait a second, we're not going to have a repeat of what we just went through, are we? And I think that the short answer to that is, of course, no. But nonetheless, it's how committed are American consumers going to be? How committed is corporate America in this new environment to move forward? And that's what it's going to come down to, right? Because if we start to backpedal here, if we start to say, okay, no, we're shutting everything down, if schools don't start in September, then you run the risk of another shutdown and another, economic, frankly, catastrophe, because that's what that was. They caused, this was sort of self-inflicted, an economic catastrophe.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Hey there, folks. Welcome. I'm talking to my friend Dinesh D'Souza. He has a new book out today. It's called United States of Socialism. If previous presidents had done the right thing, the monster that is now China would not be as big as it is, and we would not have to deal with it in this way. But it seems to me that the naivete and the greed of Clinton and the Bushes with regard to China, thinking that the god of the free market is going to solve the political problems in China and make them just like us. That's one kind of stupidity. The other is just the pure greed of saying that, knowing that at least whatever happens, I'm going to make a lot of money. We've let this go on for 30 plus years. And it seems that you need someone like Trump to deal with them in the way that he's been dealing with them. At least that's what I think.
The Chinese have had a long-standing policy of getting favorable treatment from the leaders of other countries by financing their family members. It's an old kind of Asian despotic mode of doing business. Now, if you look at Biden, for example, over the years, Biden's net worth has not gone up for the simple reason that he has to disclose any investments that he has, any deals that he makes. But now watch the Biden family, his brother, James Biden, his other brother, Frank Biden, his son, Hunter Biden. Their net worths have skyrocketed. Why? Because when Biden goes to China, he takes Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden then gets a deal through the Shanghai Free Trade Zone that is not available to Western investors, in which the Chinese government itself is putting in money, a $1.5 billion investment.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Dr. Strom, I just did a video about the Hong Kong flu of 1968. And if you look at the number of people who contracted it and died and adjusted for population, it was about 150,000 Americans. That's about 38,000 fewer deaths than we have so far with the current coronavirus. And we didn't shut down the government. I don't even remember it. I was 16 years old. I don't remember anybody talking about it at the time.
Okay. Point well.
They want to take down his statue at the Museum of Natural History. It's beautiful sculpture there. It's deemed racist. U.S. Grant, the man who was profoundly anti-slavery, the general who defeated the South, most responsible for it in the Civil War, and who then crushed the Ku Klux Klan in his lifetime. Obviously, it came back later. His statue is taken down. George Washington, who is responsible more than anyone else for the creation of the freest society in history, one to which over 2 million blacks have come voluntarily. I always point this out to you. The United States remains by far the most desired to emigrate to country. Gallup just reported this, including by Africans. Are they stupid? Why do black Africans want to move here? What would Black Lives Matter say to a Nigerian who wanted to move to the United States? You're an idiot? You come here, the police will kill you? What would Charles Blow say to them? Charles Blow was indistinguishable from Black Lives Matter. The New York Times columnist, one of the many hysterics writing at the New York Times. I'm looking at you, Mr. Producer. What do you think Charles Blow would say to a Nigerian who wanted to move to the United States? I mean, I don't know, to be honest. It's not a rhetorical question. What would a black leftist or a white leftist say to a black African who wish to move to America. Don't be an idiot. Why would I move to a country that was systemically anti-Semitic? Of course not. Right? It's a gigantic lie. You understand? We're living the big lie. The mob is the result of the lie. So TR goes down, Grant goes down, Washington goes down. I wonder how Catholics vote Democrat very often. So Father Cicero in California, Junipero Serra, his statues are being brought down. Charles Kessler of Claremont Institute has declared these riots the 1619 riots. It's correct. The lie the New York Times has spread that America was founded not in 1776. I want to repeat, too, and I just so feel for this generation. It's part of the problem. They have nothing. The left has given them nothing. Right? Everything that gave Americans meaning in the past has been ripped from the 50 years of American youth, and especially today. Marriage is not important. Family is not important. America is not important. God is not important. Church or synagogue are not important. Right? Correct? Am I right or wrong? Everything that gave Americans profound sense of purpose and happiness. I know a young woman. I won't say anything beyond that because I'm not sure she would want to be identified. But I'll ask her. She's in her late 20s. She's married. She has a kid. She has a career. However, the last 4 months have forced her to be home. So now she's back at work, and I asked her, so how do you feel? She said, I really loved being with my baby, full time. So I said, I'm just curious then, if you had the money, would you be a full-time mom? She said, absolutely. Absolutely. She never would have said that prior to having a baby and prior to having full time with the baby. What's our buzzer here? All righty, Riduzone. Yes, indeed. That is one really terrific product. Very intelligent. What they did, and it was invented by doctors. OEA is what it is composed of. OEA is produced by your own body. It tells your brain you're full. You eat less. I was reading more articles this weekend. I've always been into health and nutrition. And the calories issue, and even calories and cancer, was some of the articles that I was reading. OEA is the product is Riduzone, 65% off with the promo code Dennis.
Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
I am reading from the Financial Times headline, Pompeo castigates Bolton as a traitor. Mike Pompeo, the U.S. Secretary of State, has hit out at John Bolton, calling his former colleague a traitor and accusing Donald Trump's ex-national security advisor of lies in his new memoir. John Bolton is spreading a number of lies, fully spun half-truths, and outright falsehoods, Mr. Pompeo said about the room where it happened. Mr. Bolton's new book that is scheduled for release next Tuesday. In a statement headlined, "I was in the room too," Mr. Pompeo said it was both sad and dangerous that John Bolton's final public role is that of a traitor who damaged America by violating his sacred trust with its people. Strong words. I just don't like memoirs, which are tell-alls. Now, I read memoirs. I'm reading Bob Gates' new book, which will have anecdotes in it. I'm sure he submitted it for the review of the appropriate authorities to make sure that we do not give away any methods or source. It results in death. That's why the Pentagon Papers was not a moment of virtue for this country. It was a moment of assassination by Daniel Ellsberg and those who chaired it. It resulted in the deaths of people who could be traced in their cooperation with the United States government by the North Vietnamese after they triumphed after the United States cut and ran from Vietnam in 1975, excuse me. So no, I just don't believe in it. You got to put your books in for review. There have been memoirs by Secretary of Defense Rumsfeld, by Vice President Cheney, by George W. Bush, by Condoleezza Rice. They all get submitted to the same process. And guess what? It's not quick. And Ambassador Bolton ought to have followed the rules.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
You write in your book, Amity Shlaes, quote, most Americans shared something else with Harrington, confidence. In the 1930s, the New Deal had failed to reduce unemployment. The prolonged periods of joblessness were what had made the Depression great. But the memory of the New Deal failure had faded just enough that younger people liked the sound of the term. And memories of more recent successes fueled Americans' current ambitions. Many men were veterans, end of quote. This confidence that we could reorient society, we could cure poverty, as you pointed out. This is what drove a lot of this stuff.
Oh, yes. Well, it's always, I was looking at a flip chart, a flip picture today, on the internet where they said, well, racism is a result of capitalism. We need socialism to get rid of racism. And I thought, wow, that's pretty intense, but a lot, and pretty wrong-headed, but a lot of young people believe that. The epigram of
Hello, y'all. Dennis Prager here. I want to remind you of one of the great sponsors here, Pure Talk. I was, as I told you, I was skeptical. How do you, for $20 a month, how do you have unlimited text, unlimited talk, and 2 gigabytes of data? It's got to be inferior to, one of the major players, whether it's Verizon or AT&T or T-Mobile. And turns out I got a phone, joined the service. By the way, you don't have to get a phone. You could use your own phone. I just wanted to test it out. So I asked them for a phone. Got one, signed up. It's terrific. There was a time when my service went down and it was up. Dial pound 250, say the keyword Dennis Prager. Pure Talk USA. Pound 250, keyword Dennis Prager. I've often said how touched I am that I have reached the level of a keyword. Listen to this. Remember all the death predictions? There's still COVID. It's not just panic. There's panic over COVID, which I thought the whole time, as you know. So I want to read to you something that is now April, May, June, 2.5 months ago. 2.5 months ago, April 10th, New York Times. Officials had estimated that 140,000 hospital beds might be needed to treat coronavirus patients. Only about 18,500 were in use by week's end. They predicted 140,000, 18,000 used. More. And this is at the height of the pandemic in New York. Total number of hospitalized with the virus, 18,569, was far lower than the darkest expectations. And yet another sign that the worst of the predictions had not yet come to pass, the Javits Center, the convention center where Mr. Cuomo offered his worrisome assessment, was treating only 300 patients. The rest of its roughly 2,500 beds were empty. Remember when they cleared the Javits Center? 1/8 of the beds were used. 1 out of 8 beds. And they didn't even need that. They could have gone to hospitals. When asked at his daily news briefing whether he feared losing credibility for trusting some models that had proven to be less than accurate, Mr. Cuomo said no. Quote, "I think my credibility would be affected if I did not ask experts for their opinion," he said. So now, what is the logical question to be asked? Are you with me? If they all turned out wrong, all the predictions, and the governor says, hey, don't blame me, I just followed the experts. So does that not inevitably lead to another question? What's wrong with the experts? And the answer is most of them are fools. That's the answer. An expert in a field means nothing about common sense, wisdom, good values. Okay? When I hear the word expert, I gag. Their record stinks. Get it? It's like studies show. As I've told you, unless it shows what common sense suggests, it's baloney. There's another article in the New York Times about how the great journals of science, like New England Journal of Medicine and Lancet, are losing their credibility because they're putting out the propaganda. Because everything the left touches, it destroys. Get it? Everything. The latest is science and, of course, America. If you do not recognize that, I am sorry. I do not mean to offend you. You could be sweet and nice and kind and honest and sweet and kind and nice and honest. But you're a fool. You're a dangerous fool because you're not strong enough. You're a cowardly fool because you're not strong enough to recognize real evil. That's the problem. So you concentrate on Trump. Trump is insignificant compared to the left. Insignificant. Nothing would change if Donald Trump announced, you know what? I know I've done a great job here for 4 years, so I want to leave intact, and I want to go back to Melania and golfing and making money and enjoying life. I'm not a young kid. I've given my 4 years. I've been hated, but I made a better country. Bye-bye. What would change? Nothing. Nothing. Get it? It's all a lie, the fixation on Trump. It's all another gigantic lie. He is irrelevant to the left. He is only relevant so that they could focus your attention away from the damage they do and say, look at the damage he does. If Pence became president, it would be just as much hate. The experts. Yes, the experts. Second wave. Let's lock down. I mean, the science advisor to Biden. Is the Emmanuel family just produce fools? Is that what it does? Intelligent fools? I guess so. No, we should not go to work. We should close the economy till a vaccine. Wow. Boy, what we have had to endure. Bill in Doraville, Georgia. Hello.
Hello, Dennis.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I just wanted to let you know, I can only report on what happens to me, but I'm a subscriber of the dating service Bumble.
Yeah, well
and,
known.
Last Monday, I tried to log into my app, And I got a landing page that was titled Black Lives Matter. And it went
Wait,
through.
I want to hear this. Don't go away. I'm very curious.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Dr. Strom, I just did a video about the Hong Kong flu of 1968. And if you look at the number of people who contracted it and died and adjusted for population, it was about 150,000 Americans. That's about 38,000 fewer deaths than we have so far with the current coronavirus. And we didn't shut down the government. I don't even remember it. I was 16 years old. I don't remember anybody talking about it at the time.
Okay, point well taken. Let's just look at the numbers now. So since the May 16th, okay, we're having new cases, clearly. And, okay, businesses are opening up and people are getting more liberal. They're not as worried about transmission. But in the last week, I mean, there's going to be 709 new deaths, so 29,000 new cases. Mm-hmm. And last weekend was the highest daily total since May 16th, okay? But if somebody gets a disease, is that a death sentence? Probably not. We see the mortality is probably less than we thought. So transmission is going to happen, and maybe we do want that because I told you last time I was on about herd immunity. Mm-hmm. You get 50 to 70% of the population infected, people are going to become immune, and we may need that herd immunity if we don't get a vaccination within the next, year? We hope by year end. So, yes, there are new cases. Does it warrant a complete shutdown? Probably not.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
The president was interviewed, I think it was on Fox News, I think it was Sean Hannity. The president responded to what happened with, I don't think this is a controversial view, but maybe you do. Here was the president last night with Sean on Fox News Channel.
I thought it was a terrible situation, but you can't resist a police officer. And, if you have a disagreement, you have to take it up after the fact. It was a very sad, very, very sad thing. It's going to be up to justice. I hope he gets a fair shake because police have not been treated fairly in our country. They have not been treated fairly.
Is President Trump controversial with that remark? It was a very sad thing. He said it was a terrible thing, but you can't resist the police. Is resisting the police acceptable to anybody? Thank you to whoever texted me on the MyPillow text line, the image of Leslie Nielsen. I think it's from Naked Gun. And again, all hell breaking loose behind him. And he's saying, nothing to see here. Please disperse. That's what America feels like right now, isn't it?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube.
Okay, now I'm really curious. Back to Bill in Georgia. So you signed up with the dating service Bumble, and
Correct.
The opening page, go ahead.
Okay, well, last Monday, I tried to log into my application.
Right.
And I got this landing page that is entitled Black Lives Matter. And the first sentence of it, and I'm reading from it right now, it says, Bumble stands in solidarity with Black Americans, which I have no problem with. But then it says, and the global Black Lives Matter movement in the fight to end systemic racism everywhere. Then it goes on to what they've done and everything. And the last sentence is, by using Bumble, you're expected to adhere to our values as well as our guidelines. And at the bottom of the page, there is just one thing that you can do. It's a button that says, I agree. Now, I don't agree with that. But I can't get into my paid subscription unless I say I agree. Now, I think that's very unfair.
private companies have been so censorious, have undermined freedom more than the government. There's more to fear from Bumble and Google and Twitter and Starbucks and Macy's. I mean, it doesn't matter than from the government. So this is terrible. If you wrote them a note, said,
I have.
Well, tell me if you get a response, okay?
I will. I'll call back in.
Yeah, or write me or send me an email. Wow. This is Bumble here. Let's see. Black Lives Matter. This is the that's amazing. That's right. So if you do, I agree, you keep your account on Bumble, can you then write in your self-description, needless to say, Black Lives Matter, but the movement Black Lives Matter is a Marxist movement out for the destruction of America? Could you actually say that, or will you be kicked off Bumble? See, that's what I'd like to know. By the way, they acknowledge it. I will play for you when we return one of the heads of it saying, I'm a Marxist. Socialist is fine, Marxist is fine. The only thing they don't say is communist, but there's no difference between a Marxist and a communist. They're moral twins.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
The new book, I don't know when he sleeps because he publishes a new book every 3 weeks, is Blitz. Trump will smash the left and win. First, tell us, David, what is the key to your optimism? Why are you so confident that in 136 days we're going to win?
I believe that this book I've written, Blitz, part of it is about how evil the Democrat Party has become, and part of it is about why Trump is able to survive all these attacks. He's the most slandered human being in the history of the human race, and yet he's managed to prevail, mainly because he doesn't back down, mainly because when the racist left, and the only serious racism in America is anti-white racism. Everybody can see that now, and I say that as somebody who marched in this first civil rights march in 1948 before any of these looters were born. But Americans, first of all, they're not stupid, and they understand that the Democrats are compulsive liars and hypocrites. Everybody can see that the coronavirus has been manipulated by the Democrat Party. It's always about convicting Trump of crimes he didn't commit. You can't play in the park with your children, or open a barber shop or a salon because of the virus, but you can have tens of thousands of people in the streets rioting and burning things if they're doing it for the Democrat cause.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. If anybody doubted how strong America is, look at all we've been through in the past few months and understand why we're still standing. We're still standing because we believe in the bonds that bring us together. We believe in freedom and liberty. And we believe that after all we've been through, nothing can defeat us. So let's cheer as America gets ready to rebuild and remake our lives bigger, stronger, better than ever before. Keep it here to find out how. We are the answer.
Attention business owners. As America gets back to work, will customers know you're there? With little warning, the coronavirus attacked our nation and our well-being in ways we never anticipated. The tragic loss of life, unprecedented economic upheaval, and a shattered sense of security has left many individuals and businesses in shambles. While the aftershocks could be felt for months to come, they may not have to. There is hope for an extraordinary turnaround of your bottom line. But will you be prepared for America's grand reopening? All signs point to the biggest business opportunity of our lifetime, coming as early as this summer. A recent survey of local advertisers shows a 10-point jump in the number of local advertisers who plan to maintain or increase their spending. 1 in 4 businesses expect to spend more in advertising by the end of June, and more than half expect to restart or surge their spending by this summer. As the numbers forecast increased spending from advertisers across the country, will your message be seen and heard? Will your business benefit from the pent-up consumer demand? Salem Surround is prepared to help you deliver the right advertising message to reach all potential customers wherever they are. Your business can be ready for a post-COVID-19 economy, but the time to act is now. Be at the front of the line as our economy begins to fire on all cylinders once again. For a free assessment of your marketing message and strategy, visit salemsurround.com or contact your local media strategist today.
Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Hey there, folks. Welcome. I'm talking to my friend Dinesh D'Souza. He has a new book out today. It's called United States of Socialism. Who's behind it? Why it's evil? How to stop it? I have to say that I have been fascinated, not necessarily too surprised by the cravenness of American corporations in their dealings with China. They're willing to do business with people whose view of human rights in the Communist Party in China is not that different from slave owners in America before the Civil War. In other words, it's very, very dirty money, and they don't seem to be using the power they have to get leverage over the human rights situation. They simply seem to be willing to let it ride. And it seems that Trump is the first president we've had that has identified the problem and that is willing to take on China, which is, of course, a vast.
Well, hello, everybody. Hello. It's Dennis Prager. Got to fight for America. That's what you got to do. And it takes courage, and not everybody has it, or at least help the fighters, okay? A lot of good folks fighting. I'm one of them. I fully acknowledge it. There's no bragging involved. I would much rather have a much more peaceful life. I love life. I have great joy in it. I'll tell you one, I was just telling the producer of this program during the break, one of the sources of comfort in this very, very uniquely, in fact, difficult time has been my continuing to write my commentary on the Bible, on the first 5 books, the Torah, for people of all faiths and no faith. And I am more than halfway through the 3rd volume that I'm doing. I did not do them in order. The 5th book. And I'm telling you, if you read it, it will give you the same island of peace as it does to me to write it. Leaving that book is the reason for the riots. People who believe God gave a commandment, do not steal. Do not steal. Isn't that simple? It's called the Rational Bible. Not quite sure why, if you like what I say, you wouldn't get it. That's where it all comes from. That's where the wisdom I have comes from. Anyway, it's called The Rational Bible. 2 volumes are out. That's been very peaceful. Article in City Journal about the schools your kids will be going to next year. School will be a very different place next year. Classes will be less full, desks will be rigorously sterilized, and if the education establishment has its way, teachers will be aggressively woke. We are living at a time of obscene inequities. What are non-obscene inequities to the left? Why are inequities obscene? They never explain that. Inequities are obscene to those who believe that material equality is the goal. That's the French Revolution. American Revolution is freedom is the goal. Freedom produces inequities. What is wrong with inequities? The only way to make everyone equal is to make everybody poor. Like Venezuela has worked on that. You know that 80% of Venezuelans live below the poverty line now? It's the richest country in South America. Socialism. What did Margaret Thatcher say? Who's going to pay for it? Something to that effect. Capitalism pays for socialism. Get rid of capitalism, socialism crumbles. Anyway, obscene inequities and merely trying to compensate is not enough. What does that mean? Merely trying to compensate. Do you understand that? This is the American Association of School Administrators. I continue their announcement about the schools your kids will go to. Equity is more than making things more accessible. And AASA's work, American Association of School Administrators' work, on equity must go further and become actively anti-racist. Let me explain to you. Anti-racism is a beautiful thing. There is no one I can imagine who is more anti-racist than I. I can imagine millions who are equally anti-racist, but not more. I hate racism. Racism hits home, among other things. 6 million Jews were killed on the basis of racism, including, ironically, or I don't know if ironically is the word, interestingly, perhaps. I learned only in the last few years that my grandfather's siblings were killed in the Holocaust. I always thought I had no relatives who died in the Holocaust. Anyway, I loathe racism, but let me tell you something. I loathe communism. And the Nazis came to power as anti-communists. Get it? By the way, they hated capitalism too. I just read another biography of Hitler. People don't know how anti-capitalist the Nazis were. It's both is the one thing. Well, there were two things that communists and Nazis hated: capitalists and Jews. They have a lot in common, actually. So, I hate communism, but anti-communism was the motto of the Nazis. I hate fascism. Anti-fascism was the motto of the communists. Anti-racism serves the same purpose for the American communists. It's a beautiful ideal, as the other antis were: anti-fascism, anti-communism, anti-racism. But it's a smokescreen for evil, for totalitarianism, to be precise. So this is what your kids are going to learn. Equity is more than making things more accessible And the American Association of School Administrators' work on equity must go further and become actively anti-racist. Leading a system-wide effort requires that we ensure that cultural responsiveness permeates all levels of the district. The Chicago Public School District headlined its recently released toolkit to help foster productive conversations about race and civil disobedience. Guess who wrote the epigraph? Angela Davis, the former communist and criminal fugitive, who supplied the guns used in the Marin Courthouse massacre in 1970. An avowed communist. She writes the epigraph. In a racist society, it is not enough to be non-racist, said Davis. We must be anti-racist. The toolkit provides links to materials written by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Isn't that astonishing? This is what will be given. It's a left-wing hate group, the Southern Poverty Law Center. It's a lying left-wing hate group, and that's what will be given to your kids in the Chicago schools. A massive taking out of kids from schools is the only answer I can think of. Let the schools teach their leftist indoctrination. Your kid does not have to be one of the victims. So it means religious schools, means private schools that actually celebrate truth and, as a result, also celebrate America without denying its flaws. But you got to get your kids out of these schools. Battling in the schools will no longer. It's useless. It's like battling a communist cell. I never talked this way in my life. Never. I never called the left communist. Said that they were everything they touched they ruined. I never said they are communists. In other words, David Horowitz was right his whole life, and I was not. Simple as that. He called the left communists. I thought he overstated it. Yeah, okay, yeah, perfect. I'll play this clip. Here is one of the founders. This is from 2015. One of the founders of Black Lives Matter, 2015, on the Real News Network. Jared Ball is the person interviewing. What is her name? Oh, she's the Patrice Cullors, Cullors. Take it away.
To participate in this Black Lives Movement conference. How do you respond to that particular critique? Again, a loving critique from an elder of the struggle that some others share, that I've even shared as well, to be frank, as a concern about, in part because of the co-optation and the appropriation, that a more clear ideological structuring might be of some value here. But how do you respond to those kinds of...
All right, well, hear her response. What Black Lives Matter is philosophically.
I think that the criticism is helpful.
This is Lanhee Chen of the Hoover Institution for townhall.com. Public health officials across America have spent the last several months warning about the dangers of the coronavirus and the need for us to stay at home, halt economic activity, and avoid social interactions with our friends and neighbors. We are now reopening our economy in many parts of the country, but these same public health officials have compromised their own credibility as we do so. On the one hand, they've urged caution and a slow return to work, school, and faith gatherings. They've criticized those who oppose the stay-at-home orders. But at the same time, these officials have been broadly supportive of the large protests on America's streets in the last few weeks. Public health officials should be helping us understand the comparative risks of activities, not endorsing the causes they like while prohibiting the ones they don't. Their hypocrisy is costly indeed. They have impacted our ability to address future health crises. I'm Lanhee Chen.
ADF, fighting for those whose liberties are being violated. Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
I think the New York media is describing Florida as coronavirus raging through the state. That's literally the word they're using, at least in the New York Post. But there's a peculiarity about these data-driven news reports. Always at the bottom of the article, at the end of the report, they admit that deaths and hospitalizations are down, and hospital capacity is nowhere near being stretched thin. I don't understand it any more than I can make sense of a guy like Anthony Fauci, who told us that masks don't work and they're not effective and you shouldn't go around wearing a mask. You're causing more problems than solutions. And then admitting that those were lies because they were worried that we would, scarf up all the face masks from the hospital workers. And now, if you live in California, soon to be Texas, Tampa, Florida, you don't wear a mask, I guess you're breaking the law. I don't know what they're going to do to you if you don't have a mask. Think there'll be a mask jail? Will there be a prison for people who refuse to wear a mask? I'm serious. They're going to lock people up? You're just going to give you a fine? You're going to pay a fine if you refuse to wear a mask? I saw a conservative activist got kicked off a flight. He was trying to get to Tulsa on an airplane. They kicked him off the plane. I believe it was American Airlines.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
We used to be able to testify in court, and we were believed. Now, unless there is a video from 3 different angles, no one cares what you have to say. With all this talk about racism and racist cops, I've never seen people treated differently because of their race. And while I know that cowards that have never done this job will call me a racist for saying it, all I've ever seen was criminal behavior and cops trying to stop it, and they didn't give a rip what their skin color was. I've seen cops help and save any type of race, gender, or ethnicity you can think of, and while that used to mean something, no one cares anymore. I've been called every name you can think of, and many of them with racial overtones, and it's never come from cops. I've watched African American cops take the brunt of this and even talked one rookie out of quitting after he was berated by a lot of cowards that had the same skin color as him. I've heard words I never heard before.
This show is now available on live video streaming on Town Hall TV, as well as our website. If you want to watch the show, not just listen, go to townhall.com and click on the Town Hall TV button.
Where is it again? Yes, flatten the curve. No, flatten the fear. That's my brain had curve. You know what we have to do here instead of job create? Put flatten the curve. Fear, because then I have the headline. It's called flattenthefear.com. Tens of millions of Americans out of work, surge in drug abuse, domestic violence, suicide hotlines. You have to know the price paid for the immoral, illegal, what else can I use? Destructive lockdown that this country and the world has endured. Flattenthefear.com. All right, then you'll get the facts from scientists, not the ones who've been corrupted, which is a minority. It's a minority in every field. Science has been corrupted. I'm sorry? Yes, I know. So the woman who founded, one of the founders, 3 founders, was asked in 2015, what do you stand for? What is your philosophy as Black Lives Matter? Here was her answer.
Think of a lot of things. The first thing I think is that we actually do have an ideological frame. Myself and Alicia in particular are trained organizers. We are trained Marxists. We are super versed on sort of ideological theories.
Okay. We're Marxists. Trained Marxists. Black Lives Matter uses blacks like the communists used workers. There is no difference. Do you know that Black Lives Matter is not even a 501c3? It's a for-profit organization. Are you aware of that? Do we know where the money goes? I'm reading to you about what if you send your kid to a public school and many private schools this coming year, do not complain 10 years later when they hate your guts for being a conservative or a Christian. Okay, just know that. I'm sorry to tell you this because it's very hard to homeschool, or at least people think it is. When, you can just put your kid on a bus and they go to school and everybody's happy. Schools have nothing to do with what schools were. School's task was to produce patriotic Americans, not non-questioning Americans, but people who affirm the society. It is now to produce people who loathe the society. Okay, so I told you about Angela Davis and the Chicago Public School District. English teachers may look for guidance to an anti-racist expert like Lorena German, who chairs the Committee on Anti-Racism for the National Council on the Teaching of English. At the height of the recent urban unrest, while police cars and buildings were set ablaze by anarchists and looters, German tweeted, quote, "Educators, what are you burning? Your white-centered curriculum? The Amy Cooper next door? Your anti-black behavior policies? The school's racist policies? Your racist-ass principal? The funding for the police and schools versus counselors? What are you burning?" Capitalized. Then, 1, 2, 3, question marks. 2 exclamation points, question mark, exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point, question mark. This is from the chair of the Committee on Anti-Racism for the National Council on the Teaching of English. What are you burning? You're not burning enough. Next, Transforming Our Public Schools, a guide to culturally responsive and sustaining education, created by the New York City Culturally Responsive Education Working Group. These are all communist front groups. It's amazing. This is what they always used to do, all the Society for the Liberation of Women. Explains to teachers that, quote, listen to this, the whole Western canon is rife with horrible stories and atrocities of who we are as people of color. It's a lie, by the way. It's a gigantic lie. The Western canon is what ended slavery before the rest of the world. Anyway, the Western canon, was Shakespeare teaching people racism? The play I know that features a black is Othello. I don't quite see what's racist about it, do you? I mean, he did write an anti-Semitic play. It's true. I read it. It is anti-Semitic. And I still believe it should be read. Merchant of Venice. Western canon has a lot of anti-Semitism. It's still the greatest canon, and I'm a Jew telling you this. Anyway, what's racist about Bach? Or Beethoven, or Mozart? We're not done. For their part, the National Committee on Social Studies Early Childhood Elementary Community has promised to overhaul content explaining, quote, to stop the systemic, and we are talking about system-wide policies and practices, the systemic pattern of dehumanization. Wow. Did you know that? There's a systemic process of dehumanization. How I don't understand. How is Oprah the most popular woman in America? With people, those systemically teaching blacks are not human, did they fail in her case? I don't understand how they explain the popularity and success of so many blacks. Did they just fail in teaching the dehumanization of blacks to that many white Americans? We're living we're bathing, we're swimming in a tsunami of lies.
America has been doing some soul searching lately. Perhaps you noticed. We're examining what's right with America and what can be made better. No other country does this kind of introspection better than us. Some of what we found we don't like and will change. Every life has the right to be treated with dignity and respect. That includes our law enforcement as well as every skin color. We've been through this before in America, and we always came out stronger. We will this time too. Our hosts will make sure of that. We are the answer. Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
The idea of shutting down our economy was just, awful. I mean, and by the way, the people who suffered the most, Larry, were the lowest income people, Black Americans. We had the best. Do you know, Larry, from 2017 through 2020, what demographic group saw the fastest rise in incomes?
Blacks.
Black Americans. Mm-hmm. Yes, I knew you knew that. And wait a minute, how could that happen? We've got a racist president. How could that have happened? We had more economic advance in 3 years for Black Americans under Trump than we did in 8 years under Obama.
Stephen Moore is my guest. He was an economic advisor to President Trump. President Trump, to me, I could be completely wrong. You would know more than I would about this. Instinctively, he didn't want to shut down the economy, did he?
Oh, Trump did not want to shut down the economy. No way. Mm-hmm. He got terrible advice from Fauci, who's a disaster as his health advisor. And I'll tell you this: we can't undo what has been done. But Donald Trump is not going to shut down this economy again. I guarantee you that. Mm-hmm. I mean, now the left is saying, "Oh, we have to shut down the economy again because we've had a few more cases of coronavirus." No, the vast majority of the people who've gotten very sick and have died from coronavirus are people that are over the age of 65 or 70. So let's keep those people healthy. But we've got to you can't keep an economy down. And I actually think it's because we did this, we locked down the economy for 2 or 3 months, that we have these riots in the street. You can't keep young people locked up with nothing to do, no jobs to go to, no income for 2 or 3 months, and expect you're creating a tinderbox, and it was just waiting for a match.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, Falkirk Center, Liberty University. Let's talk about college campuses in America, because Turning Point USA, you do a lot of speaking at college campuses, because they are the places really that they're the incubators of the woke madness, cultural Marxism.
So I want everyone to watch the news very carefully the next 6 months. When you see outward radicalism, hatred of our country, statements by Joe Biden or by leading Democrats that make your skin crawl. I want everyone listening to this to take a step back and ask, where did this come from? And it came from the universities. These ideas were given merit and basis through higher education and college campuses, through an intelligentsia of left-wing Marxist radicals that have been given undeserved credibility for absolute garbage, foolish ideas. For everyone listening to this, if you are worried about this, the continual decline of America into chaos or into anarchy, or as America's continued to trend, I want you to ask yourself the question, am I actually supporting it without even realizing it? Because I know a lot of your listeners, Eric, they say, oh, no, I don't support the downfall of America. I'm very careful where I shop and what I do and where I go to church. Maybe if you send your kid to a college, I'm not saying it's the right thing or the wrong thing, but you very well might be financially assisting the greatest threat to the future of America. And if you're voluntarily donating money as an alumni, you're absolutely
It'll be very interesting to see how that's received. Truth is now considered to be hate speech. So a black scholar, Larry Elder, brings you just what happened in Ferguson. We'll see what happens. I'm very curious to see the reaction, whether it will be violating community standards. Already a tweet advocating his film, Uncle Tom, has been removed from Twitter. Are they vying with each other to be the most suppressive of speech? Remember, liberty is not a left-wing value either. Just remember all of these things I've said all these years. All right, Mitch in Detroit, hello.
Hey, Dennis, can you hear me all right?
I do indeed.
Dennis, can you hear me?
I do indeed.
Hi.
The question is, do you hear me?
Yes, I can, sir.
Okay, all right.
So, I teach at an Orthodox Jewish school in Michigan. And over the summer, I am taking classes on children's literacy to try and just be better. So in the college class, we had an assignment about diverse literature. And it was brought up, to have, it was a paradoxical message where the first part of the message is that, especially the younger the child, the more they need to see themselves in the books that are in the school and in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second part of the message is they need to be exposed to diversity. So teaching a bunch of elementary Orthodox Jewish kids, how can I satisfy both of those conditions at once? And it's incredibly difficult.
Well, it should just be ignored. Anyway, I find that to be ridiculous. You have to see yourself. I grew up in an American school. There wasn't one textbook that showed, and I was an Orthodox Jew, and I did not see one. It was who was it? See Spot Run, and who was who? Huh? Yeah, Dick and Jane were wasps, to the best of my knowledge. And it never bugged me whatsoever that there was nobody with a yarmulke, nobody named Moshe in my books. It had no impact on me. Zero. It had no impact on any kid in my class. Oh, my God, there were no Jews in our textbooks. Oh, my God, there are no Orthodox Jews in our I don't see myself. That the narcissism and patheticness of that notion is beyond belief to me. It is beyond belief.
Well, it gets better, Dennis. There was kind of a sticking point because I teach younger kids. There was a discussion I had with my professor where the professor was saying there absolutely should be LGBTQ books in the school and in the classroom. And so my response to that was...
Wait, in an Orthodox Jewish school?
Oh, yeah, and in the classroom. So I said kindergarten through third grade is absolutely not the place to have those books.
Right.
And then I told my professor, I said, look, I don't want to, but even if I did want to, how do you think the rabbis at my school would react if I was trying to teach that?
Correct. I would like you to do me, and more importantly, you and your school a favor. Look at my article in the Jewish Journal this week on what Jewish schools should teach. It's your call is perfectly apt. It's at jewishjournal.com. What should Jewish schools teach on America and race? I think I'm writing, I don't usually wait to the last minute, but I did in this case. I think I'm writing my column on the following. Any priest, rabbi, or minister who does not teach that colorblind is God's will should not be is rendering religion useless. This is the test for religion right now. If you can't tell your congregation God and the Bible believe in colorblind, then religion is worthless. This is your test, pastor, rabbi, and priest. My friends, 800-500-8384 is the phone number. What is it at the phone number to? Relief Factor. Why should you call? Because you should try for 3 weeks. If it doesn't work in 3 weeks, it probably won't work. So you've thrown out $19.95. How do you like that? But what if it does work? Woo! Then life is better because you have less pain. You might even be pain-free. As I told you, doing the most dangerous work a human can, gardening, my wife broke her finger. What did she take? Relief Factor. ReliefFactor.com, 800-500-8384.
Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
In the 3-year turnaround, which is the best economic turnaround in U.S. history, Hugh, under President Trump's leadership, 2.5 million people pulled themselves out of poverty. We don't talk about that, but that is in contrast with the failure of the Great Society's war on poverty over 50 years failed to move the poverty line at all. And President Trump comes in and does it. In the African-American community, we have the lowest unemployment in U.S. history right now, the highest middle-class income ever measured. President Trump has done more through justice reform, HBCUs, which are our historic black colleges and universities, and our opportunity zones that Tim Scott has helped author, has done more good for that community than any president in the last decade, last 100 years, really.
I think the president is upholding the Constitution. On Sunday, we had Colin Powell say he's drifting from it. I wrote a Washington Post editorial this morning saying that's absurd. What's your assessment of Donald Trump's fealty, his loyalty to the Constitution?
This man is committed to the Constitution. If you look at everything he's done in standing up for America with our allies and others who would do us harm, this man has made sure the world knows that America first doesn't mean America alone. But this is the first president we've had in 50, 60 years, Hugh, that has told the rest of the world what's important to us. I think that's very refreshing, and we've got to give him a second term.
I believe this whole election is about the Constitution. I think Donald Trump is the Constitution candidate, and I think Joe Biden and the Democratic Party is off the rails to the left. Your assessment?
Well, the Democrats are trying to perpetrate a socialist agenda that you heard in the presidential debate, Hugh, and you'll see it in the general election with Biden. Biden is no moderate. He absolutely wants to perpetrate a socialist agenda on the people of America, and we're not going to let that happen.
Keep keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. America has been doing some soul searching lately. Perhaps you noticed. We're examining what's right with America and what can be made better. No other country does this kind of introspection better than us. Some of what we found we don't like and will change. Every life has the right to be treated with dignity and respect. That includes our law enforcement as well as every skin color. We've been through this before in America, and we always came out stronger. We will this time too. Our hosts will make sure of that. We are the answer. Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
The idea of shutting down our economy was just, awful. I mean, and by the way, the people who suffered the most, Larry, were the lowest income people, Black Americans. We had the best. Do you know, Larry, from 2017 through 2020, what demographic group saw the fastest?
Did you know that you can see visual highlights of my show every day on my YouTube channel? So sign up today, go to youtube.com, type in Dennis Prager channel, and click subscribe. Don't forget to click the bell icon so you'll be notified every time we put up a new clip. All right, everybody. You got to make a decision about sending your kids to a school now. It's clear. They have made it clear. Marxism will be the America hatred, Marxism, it'll all be there. I'm sorry, it's much easier to send your kid to school in most cases than homeschool. But you get a lot of help in homeschooling. Other parents who are doing it, there's a great homeschooling association. It sounds foreboding, but it is not. Parents, in any event, should be their child's teachers, ideally. Teachers are substitute parents. Or send your kid to a school that actually teaches truth. The more kids who leave the public schools, the bigger the earthquake. We have to fight back. Okay. Now, if you're a district, if you live in, like I just met a woman who came in here, mask-free, God bless her, and from Eastern Kentucky, to say hello. She was visiting. She listens to the show. And get a picture. We did not socially distance for the picture. And in Eastern Kentucky, the public schools are probably not following this curriculum. But certainly in every metropolitan area and in many suburbs, yes. All right, Benjamin in Hobe Sound, Florida. Hi.
Hi, Dennis. Yeah, I'll try to be quick. And for the record, I was homeschooled, and I'm proud to say that.
So hold on. Wait. So help a lot of people right now. How much parental involvement is necessary? Not ideal, but necessary. In other words, can parents say, I want my kid homeschooled, and others do a lot of the schooling?
Well, I'll be honest with you. The way it worked in my family is by the time I was I'd say 13 years old, my parents just expected me to do my schoolwork on my own, and they had disciplined me, because they had spent a lot of time with me as a young kid, and so I just did it. They didn't have to force me to do it. It was only kind of like half homeschooling because I was doing so much on my own. So, I mean, it definitely. I think if you homeschool at the younger years, you'll see a lot of return on your investment in terms of. Oh, there's no question. I'm not saying
that there's no question, but how much? See, what I'm really asking, because it varies, I know, but I don't know. I know a lot of people who've done it, but I don't know a lot about it. So I know you have a question, and I will get to it, obviously. But I just want to understand, homeschooling isn't only at home, don't you? Wasn't there a larger group that you were affiliated with?
Yeah, I did. Actually, the group I was affiliated with was called Classical Conversations. It is Christian, but it's not necessarily aggressively Christian. So, I mean, if you're secular, I would recommend it. So, it's called a co-op. So the way it works is the parents will volunteer to teach a class, and so you sort of share the load, so to speak. And you meet a couple times a week, and you get assigned homework, and so it was very effective.
Right, obviously it was. Are you going to college?
Unfortunately, yes.
Which one?
And that's kind of what I'm calling about.
What college?
I go to the University of Florida.
Okay, in Gainesville?
In Gainesville, Florida, that's correct.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so, I mean, you might have seen the news, it was on Fox News a few days ago. The president of our university issued a statement, on how they're going to be revising, they're going to be revising the school's policies. They're going to start monitoring how ethnically and racially diverse their, faculty are, which I think is itself racist. And they said they're going to start, taking away monuments that might honor the Confederacy and renaming buildings. And I sent an email just telling them, look, this is wrong, but I just feel kind of powerless right now. I mean, because we've got these mobs of people tearing down statues.
To a certain extent, you are. The only thing you can do, all right, so I'll tell you what you should do is join Prager Force so that you have a very big thing behind you, and it'll give you comfort because you'll meet thousands, literally thousands, of people your age from all over the world who share your values. Otherwise, you'll feel very lonely. And then you share the videos, and it's one of the only ways to get around them.
Yeah, but I want these people, I don't want to just sit here and watch, the statues get torn down.
I know. Well, okay, so then gather. For whatever reason, even in a state like yours, where the governor is Republican, apparently the police don't stop people from wrecking public property. I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. That's not a euphemism for I don't agree with it. I don't understand it. But it would be a very interesting thing if you could find 20 people, I don't know, write an article, see if it's published. I doubt it will be, but try. Say, whether you agree with it or not, we can't just tear down statues. There is such a thing as law and process. And what's to stop the mob on the other side from doing it to what you treasure? I mean, but look, reason today, this is the irony. It's not an irony to me, but it's the irony to many. The age of reason said we don't need God or the Bible, and it has produced the most irrational age. Just think about it. Now, are you still not convinced that the death of religion in the West, which produced originally communism, fascism, Nazism, and now what you're seeing in America, still think reason is enough? Most irrational American eruption in American history.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
The idea of shutting down our economy was just, awful. I mean, and by the way, the people who suffered the most, Larry, were the lowest income people, Black Americans. We had the best. Do you know, Larry, from 2017 through 2020, what demographic group saw the fastest rise in incomes?
Blacks.
Black Americans. Mm-hmm. Yes, I knew you knew that. And wait a minute, how could that happen? We've got a racist president. How could that have happened? We had more economic advance in 3 years for Black Americans under Trump than we did in 8 years under Obama.
Stephen Moore is my guest. He was an economic advisor to President Trump. President Trump, to me, I could be completely wrong. You would know more than I would about this. Instinctively, he didn't want to shut down the economy, did he?
Oh, Trump did not want to shut down the economy. No way. He got terrible advice from Fauci, who's a disaster as his health advisor. And I'll tell you this: we can't undo what has been done, but Donald Trump is not going to shut down this economy again. I guarantee you that. I mean, now the left is saying, "Oh, we have to shut down the economy again because we've had a few more cases of coronavirus." No, the vast majority of the people who've gotten very sick and have died from coronavirus are people that are over the age of 65 or 70. So let's keep those people healthy. But, we you can't keep an economy down. And I actually think it's because we did this, we locked down the economy for 2 or 3 months, that we have these riots in the street. You can't keep young people locked up with nothing to do, no jobs to go to, no income for 2 or 3 months. And you're creating a tinderbox, and it was just waiting for a match.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, Falkirk Center, Liberty University. Let's talk about college campuses in America, because Turning Point USA, you do a lot of speaking at college campuses, because they are the places really that they're the incubators of the woke madness, cultural Marxism.
So I want everyone to watch the news very carefully the next 6 months. When you see outward radicalism, hatred of our country, statements by Joe Biden or by leading Democrats that make your skin crawl, I want everyone listening to this to take a step back and ask, where did this come from? And it came from the universities. These ideas were given merit and basis through higher education and college campuses, through an intelligentsia of left-wing Marxist radicals that have been given undeserved credibility for absolute garbage, foolish ideas. For everyone listening to this, if you are worried about this, the continual decline of America into chaos or into
Hey, everybody, Dennis Prager here. I'm still working. I haven't spoken about the Tulsa rally. So I'm still working on trying to understand the turnout versus the expectations. And a lot of people have a lot of theories on it. I think a lot of people were scared when they learned 6 workers had COVID. I believe more than sabotage by leftists buying big chunks of seats, which is what, in fact, the left would like us to believe. The real culprit is COVID and people's fears. I don't quite tap into those fears. I never did from the beginning. But especially now, the way the press covers it, oh, there are more cases than ever. So what? So what? I actually hope there are a lot of cases and nothing happens to these people and they just become immune. There's one major guy in Spain who just announced that, in his view, the thing is just weaker. The virus has gotten weaker. Of course I'd go to a rally. I did go to a rally weeks ago in Los Angeles. I hugged like 40 people. Anyway, I don't know. But I will tell you this. It all depends on what you compare the numbers to. If you compare the numbers to a full stadium, 6,000 sounds like a little, compared to what Joe Biden would get. No COVID, Joe Biden rally, how many would go? No COVID. With COVID, in other words, with the circumstances we have now, it would be close to zero. All right, everybody. It is time to do whatever you can. You're called to save the West, to save liberty. It's a big one, to save America. That's what it's about. The communists And they are. Look, she said, I'm a Marxist. Yeah, you heard it. Head of Black Lives Matter. Anti-racism is the vehicle. It is irrelevant to the left. It is the vehicle, just like anti-fascism was the vehicle for the communists, and anti-communism was the vehicle for the fascists and the Nazis. It's all a facade. It's to gain power and ultimately make the West defunct. It's a magnificent civilization, and we have to fight for it. I wish we didn't, but you do.